Kathy and Bill, let me ask you, would you like to talk with him?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
We actually have been corresponding with him on email.
His name is James.
James, right.
Hello, James. You're on with Kathy and Bill.
I wish that it's so good to have them on there. And I wanted to thank them for writing the piece. When I saw that, when it first appeared, it was, after Thom Hartmann had cut me off like he did when I brought up the Mearsheimer and Walt book on his radio broadcast, which was simulcast on C-SPAN. It was just so frustrating. And then to see Bill and Kathy write that piece, that just gave a little bit more hope that the word would get out there about the book. And
well, wait. I don't want to discuss Mr. Hartmann's show here.
Well, that's in the article, though.
In a negative way. Yeah, but that's for Kathy and Bill to bring up.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay. Do you want us to describe?
Thanks, James. Please go ahead, Bill
what
and
happened
Kathy.
Was, and we didn't know that this was James who was the caller at the time, but this was, I guess, at the end of August, just a few days, I believe, after the Mearsheimer-Walt book had come out, and a few days after Lawrence Wilkerson's statement that we just mentioned a little while ago. James, it turns out it was James, who called in, and Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, was Thom Hartmann's guest, as he is every Friday. And James called in and commended the Mearsheimer-Walt book and urged that Senator Sanders read it and discuss it, bring it up on the floor of the Senate as something that should be debated. Thom Hartmann said, "I'm going to cut you off because we don't hype books on this program." And, of course, he had just a few minutes before had allowed another caller to commend another book, which happened to be The Economic Hitman, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is quite a good book. But he allowed that earlier caller, to hype that book, but he wouldn't allow James to mention the Mearsheimer-Walt book. And then Bernie Sanders himself, James had mentioned what Mearsheimer and Walt have to say about the Israeli connection to the Iraq War. And Bernie Sanders poo-pooed that by talking about, we don't want to talk about conspiracy theories. And then Thom Hartmann chimed in again and said, besides, Lawrence Wilkerson has just said that Israel didn't want us to go to war with Iraq, which, of course, is a misrepresentation of what Lawrence Wilkerson had said. So this all happened in about 90 seconds, and this radio program succeeded, I think, for an awful lot of listeners in just totally undermining the Mearsheimer-Walt book and its message.
By the way, this reference to conspiracy theories by Bernie Sanders that's one of the phrases used heavily by Abraham Foxman in his book in which he attempts to counter Mearsheimer and Walt. He talks almost innumerable times about this being sort of a conspiracy theory that those people such as Mearsheimer and Walt, and us, I suppose, too, are in which we emphasize the strength and the power of the lobby. That's all kind of a conspiracy theory as claimed in the Abraham Foxman book.
Yeah. Well, the one thing in common held by most of the people who are perceived to be criticizing Israel is that they simply are speaking the truth that's available in many sources. And some are Jews, some are Arabs, some are Scotsmen, some are, any calling whatever, black, white, yellow, brown, red. If they're familiar with what has gone on in the Middle East and they simply recite what is probable and documented, and if it's not flattering to Israel, watch out.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's what Jimmy Carter did in his book that came out late last year, Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid.
Right.
He described the facts in the West Bank because he's been there. He's been there numerous times, and all you have to do is go there and open your eyes, and you see the situation and facts that are very uncomfortable for Israel and its defenders to acknowledge.